Well, with the deadline looming, Aurora Empowerment Systems says it will have the cash to pay for the purchase of the Orkney and East Rand operations of liquidated gold mine Pamodzi Gold by next week. What started out as a good news story towards the end of last year has turned horribly wrong, with the mines not operating, mass retrenchments underway, workers also on strike. Here to tell us more is Thulani Ngubane. He's Commercial Director at Aurora. Thulani, thanks very much for coming into the studio.
Thank you very much for having me in your show.
We spoke to the lead liquidator, Enver Mutala, about a week ago, and it was still uncertain whether you would come up with the funding in time for the deadline. You now say you're going to have it by next week. Have you signed the documents yet? Is that money secured?
Well, what I can say at the moment is that we are looking at the draft contract. Obviously, there's certain things that we need to satisfy ourselves as the people that are coming in to invest in our company. So we're busy looking at those contractual obligations, and hopefully when the time is actually, of course, right, we're just going to be putting our signature and then making sure that come Monday deadline, we are on track.
Of course, when we spoke to Enver, he was talking about potential US funders. Is it the US funders who are you're looking at this contract with?
Yes, unfortunately, it's a US funders. Locally, we never had any. We never thought there would be any readiness to our local funders to be able to get involved into this deal of this magnitude.
Who are these funders? Can you tell us what their name is, what sort of money they're coming up with, and what the terms of this loan is going to be?
Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to divulge the name at this point in time before we could actually sign on a dotted line. But when the time is right, it will be for the public consumption. Everybody would know about it. Obviously, there are certain issues that we're still busy trying to outline as the Aurora Empowerment System, so that going forward, we do not have any hiccups as previous owners, previous funders that we've had in the past.
Now, I've heard that it is a private equity firm that you are talking to about this money. Will they be playing an active role in your business? Because that's what private equity funds generally do. They do take a hand in the business because they need to see a return on their investment.
Well, certainly there will be some active role that they'll be playing in our business. Of course, that would be one of the transparency that we would like to see it happening in our organization. So, active role, they will be taking part of the active role as in the management of the business.
Now, I understand you still owe about 595 million towards these mines that you bought from Pamodzi Gold.
Yes.
How much are you going to be borrowing or getting in funding from these partners? Because, of course, you still have working capital requirements, and we know that you are losing about 30 million rand a month at this stage. You have salaries to pay, you have water and lights to pay, you have all sorts of working capital requirements. How much are you asking these people for?
Well, initial investment, we're looking at about $100 million US. So going forward, obviously, there will be still other requirements that would be needed for capex injection, and also making the asset to be at a state where it could be mined properly, and also making sure that the health and safety standard are adhered to. So all that factors, they've been taken into cognizance by ourselves.
Will they be willing to come forward with more cash? Is that something you're discussing at this stage?
Yes, the willingness is there, so we don't foresee any problems as far as that is concerned.
How's this going to work? Is it going to be a loan? Is it going to be an equity stake that they're taking?
It's an equity partner, so they'll be taking equity into Aurora Empowerment Systems.
And what sort of stake in the business will they be getting for that $100 million?
Well, those are still point of contention. I wouldn't like to try and disturb those deliberations as they are still taking place. So I wouldn't like to try and commit myself into those facts at the moment until such time we have deliberated and come to some sort of an arrangement and agreement with our funders.
Do they have experience in the gold mining industry? Because of course we know those mines that you have bought, those are the Free State and Orkney operations from Pamodzi Gold, are marginal mines at best.
Yes.
And to get gold profitably out of the ground isn't going to be easy. Do these guys have experience?
Well, I think the experience, it's not becoming a main factor here. What is important is that we as the company, are we going to be able to draw the right expertise because of the funding that we've got. Because once you've got the funding, you can draw any expertise into your business to making sure that, the business is run properly and making sure that going forward we do not have any other problem, because we've got people with the quantum information which we've drawn to your organization.
Has Aurora bitten off more than it can chew with these purchases?
Sorry?
Have you bitten off more than you can chew with these purchases? Do you regret the deal to buy these mines last year?
No, we do not regret, because this was actually our step in the door to get into the mining industry. So we do not regret at all that we've been part of and parcel of the deal.
You previously had organised funding with AM Equity, that's the Malaysian outfit. Those negotiations didn't go much further. They said there were internal issues with Aurora. What was the problem with that funding? Why didn't it come through? What were these internal issues?
Well, the internal issues, was the fact that before they could outlay any more, of course, capital into the organization, there were certain issues that we needed to take into cognizance. There's some procedures, obviously, that needed to be restructured. The overhauling of the organization. So those issues have been addressed, and also the issue of how we could turn around the organization not to burn 30 million rand a month. So those were the issues that needed to be taken into cognizance before the guys could go forward. Then we've taken that rational decision of laying out have to lay some of our employees, and then of course based on that, obviously it causes us a strike because the guys were unhappy to be laid off, and then but going forward, for any success, there are casualties. These are one of the challenges that we've...
Shashila, we're almost out of time. If you do get this $100 million in funding next week, if you can make a positive announcement, how soon before you can get these mines operating, before you can start paying salaries and paying unpaid bills?
Well, we're looking at as early as first week of May, we should be up and running, because as I'm talking to you right now, our white-collar worker staff, they are there with planning and doing all sorts of things that needs to be taken care before you could go out and do the proper mining.
Shashila, I'm afraid we have to leave it there, but thanks very much for coming in, and I hope we can invite you in next week with positive news.
Thank you very much for having me.